Okay, if you have your copy of the Goonies ready, I am currently paused on the Warner Brothers logo, and in just a second I am going to start the movie. This is the very first Curator commentary I've ever done. We're about to find out together how this goes. It could go horribly, and this may never see the light of day, so the only person that will know what I've said here is Gavin. So yeah, I'm just gonna hit play in 3, 2, 1. I've always really loved the title design and the font choices they did for the logo for the Goonies. It's so perfect, and the skull and crossbones really hammers home like the big old pirate adventure that we're about to go on. What it doesn't convey to you is just how adult this supposedly kids movie is about to be. Because here we open up in a prison, and immediately we find a guy who's hanged himself to death and has just placed a note on him, because this is the kind of kids movies that came out in the 80s, and it's no wonder that movies like this totally inspired Stranger Things. And of course, this is one of the Fratelli brothers who's faked his death through a pretty clever contraption, using some piping to hold himself up, so he's not actually hanging himself, because this is a jailbreak with his mother and other brother outside, already setting up one of the many wacky booby traps that are about to be in this movie. Just some fantastic character acting right off the bat. And a ton of guns for this children's movie. Man, they really don't make kids movies like this anymore. In that this probably was never supposed to be a kids movie. It just stars kids. I love this actor by the name of Joey Pants. He's just really fun to watch. He doesn't get the most characterization in the film, but he does get to do a whole lot of fun line reads. And of course, this opening car chase that kicks off the movie with the Fratelli family escaping prison is absolutely delightful and really well shot in this small Oregon town. And I would hazard to guess the reason it's so well shot is because we have the director Richard Donner, who's a part of this film, who went on to do the Lethal Weapon movies, which are absolutely fantastic and mix some great gallows humor and incredible jokes written by another fantastic director, Shane Black, and some incredible action sequences. And of course, this car chase scene also doubles as introducing us to all the main cast, which is a fun way to do this. Of course, we meet Corey Feldman's character, the Mouth, right here. This is one of the many movies that Corey Feldman did around this time that kind of fits in this genre per se. He also did Stand By Me with Rob Reiner, and quite a few other more adult than kid films, but definitely like coming of age stories were his jam around this time. We get introduced to Data right here with one of his crazy contraptions, which goes horribly awry, but miraculously also saves him from being hit by the car chase that's going on throughout this scene. And of course, Chunk's very first line should go ahead and remind you that if you are watching this with your children, you've probably made a horrible, horrible mistake, because this film is full of language, which is ironically one of those things that you forget every single time you watch this movie, just how adult it is. And the director of photography, Nick McLean, deserves some incredible commendation for mixing both all the shots done here locally in Oregon, and as well as all the shots that were done in California and all kinds of different places. If you've watched the commentary track from the cast and the director, what you'll find from this movie and from this cast is that they truly, really had a great time with Spielberg and with Richard Donner. They both loved and hated directing these kids because it was a ton of fun to direct them, because they were just so eager to be a part of this film, but also they're actual children, so it's kind of tough to wrangle them.
Really?
Nah, I'm just trying to delete myself. You know, take this.
Let's delude yourself, dummy.
That's what I said.
And here, of course, is our introduction to Sean Astin's character, Mikey. Obviously, a lot of his character traits right here eventually go on to inspire the character that the Duffers write for him in season 2 of Stranger Things, Bob the Brain. A lot of the shots in that season of the show are heavily inspired, and including that whole map subplot that Will draws while under the control of the Mind Flayer. So here we slowly start to gather the crew. Mouth has arrived, and of course we get Josh Brolin in one of his very early films. He looks really young here, and I can't imagine what it was like to work alongside a cast like this. And of course, here we get the introduction of the infamous Truffle Shuffle. Once again, if you have watched, or you haven't watched the commentary track with all the cast, you'll find that not only did the actor that plays Chunk here go on to become a pretty famous media lawyer who helps actors deal with any issues they might have through working in this career, he also got chickenpox right before this shoot began, and if you look very closely and have a really good transfer of this film, you can clearly see it, because he didn't want to tell Richard Donner that he had come down with the chickenpox, because he didn't want to lose this job, and we should all be thankful that he did omit that information, because he's one of the best parts of this entire movie. His floral shirt and plaid pants are so much. It's just a crazy outfit, but it works so well. That Michael Jackson joke has not aged well at all. And of course, Data's going to have an introduction that's very James Bond-esque. The literal James Bond theme. And of course, Chunk breaks this Michelangelo's David statue. I definitely did not catch this joke as a kid. Based on that line, you can only hazard a guess that Data must always come through the screen door, pretty frequently enough to where that's a common occurrence that he breaks it every single time he arrives. Another thing I never would have gotten as a kid is Mouth wearing this Purple Rain t-shirt. Definitely was not a Prince fan as a child, but have definitely fixed that in recent years. So with the Goonies, Spielberg continues his of course Chunk glues the Michelangelo's penis straight up upside down. Once again, a joke I definitely wouldn't have gotten as a child, and I've only grown to appreciate the adult humor in this movie. But as I was saying, Spielberg wrote the story for this film, and Chris Columbus, who went on to write and direct the first two Harry Potter films, wrote the screenplay for this, which eventually Richard Donner directed. But around this time, you get a lot of stories from Spielberg that are kind of anti-capitalist, very socialist in nature, and critiquing government in forms of authority that often screw over the little people. And of course that's what's happening here is a real estate development is trying to buy up all these houses in this less wealthy community and essentially push everyone out so that way they can build a brand new mall over this small American town. So of course we now have to go up to the attic and discover a bunch of priceless artifacts, which Mouth is going to immediately ruin and Chunk is going to find a way to destroy. I haven't noticed that either, but the kids apparently ran so close to the camera in the take they use in the movie that it actually causes the camera to shake within the frame. This attic scene starts with this really long oneer, which Spielberg is kind of known for, that introduces us to this whole area and gives us kind of an idea of the space that we're going to be investigating. And there's a lot of interesting stories up here. This almost could be a cabin in the woods type adventure where so many different things, so many different stories could launch off from here. There's like a weird fortune teller animatronic box in the back. What appears to be a Cape Cod sign. And of course, we get this nice book introduction to the treasure and the legend of One-Eyed Willie. I think the most interesting thing about the Goonies, the movie itself, is that it clearly feels like one of the last adventures that these kids will go on. In that, it's these kids are clearly friends and have been friends for a long time, have a lot of history together, and if they don't complete this adventure, then they're going to all have to move away because they won't be able to get the funds necessary to keep their houses. And so some of these artifacts could be attributed to stories and adventures they've gone on in the past, or just his or things that his father has collected over the years from the museum. What's all that Spanish junk right there? I love the line, this map is old news. As in, all maps are kind of old news, in that they are historical artifacts that direct you to different places. One of my favorite things about watching kid actors is that they often breathe like right in the middle of a line. They don't know that, or they don't have the concept of like breath support or trying to manage their breath so they can get through a line all the way through. It's also interesting, some of these lines were improvised or rewritten by the actors themselves, so that way they felt more like that character's voice. It's lucky that he grabs that for whatever reason, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to solve a puzzle later. And of course, this is the introduction of this real estate mogul who is intentionally trying to buy out all these houses and screw over all these small families. Effectively bankrupting the town so that way he can repave it and build what he wants. I think one of the other things that's really good about this movie, despite, not just all the fun adventure stuff, is the nice little character moments, like this one between Mikey and his brother. And here is one of the most iconic shots from the film. It's not all of our characters, but it's at least the core cast of Goonies. And here's this dope Cyndi Lauper song that was written especially for this film. You'll get to hear it all the way through in the credits. And a good bit more right here. These quips are so quintessentially 80s. So delightful. A neat jib shot right here. Some real fun camera movements. Dad here was in quite a few movies. I think another one that definitely was a part of my childhood was How the Grinch Stole Christmas, directed by Ron Howard. Double O negative. Sean Astin in the commentary track remarks the fact that he drops the map in this shot, the shot that's actually in the film, and intentionally skids on his bike so he can hop off, run back, get the map, and still hit his mark because he didn't want to disappoint the director. And it feels like a genuine character moment. And this is the guy that would go on to become Thanos. I've been lucky enough to see this movie quite a few times, both across my childhood on television, and then just last year as part of the summer movie series here at the Alabama Theater in Birmingham, Alabama. I screened this movie, and this is one of the only green screen shots in the entire film. But I got to see this film for the first time on the big screen, and seeing this movie in a large audience with a friend who had never seen it before was a really cool experience, because there's something special about seeing a lot of these classic movies that were important to me as a child, and have been important to the kind of movies I ended up liking as an adult. I think it's important to see these kinds of movies like classics on the big screen. So it's nice that movies, as they get celebrated for their bigger anniversaries, like 25 years and on, they end up getting re-released in theaters. So people like me who maybe didn't get the opportunity to see this film when it first came out, mostly because I wasn't born when this movie first was released, it's neat to be able to see this movie on the big screen. Turn off your brain. You always forget just how dark this movie is. But you know, it's fun to see kids media that is so quintessential to, I guess, kid culture, especially from the 80s, and was intended to be consumed by children, take these really dark routes. Because there's like some legit murder in here, but also some really fun gallows humor that I think would eventually go on to inspire the kind of humor that I have. What I love is that Chunk at some point has become like the boy who cried wolf, and now anytime he tries to warn people, even though he does tend to be one of the smarter kids in the group and realizes things a lot faster than other people. This is where you really got to commend the character work that Anne Ramsey does here. She was also in Baby Threw from a Train. She's such a fun villain to watch in this movie. Some of the grossest water I've ever seen in my entire life. It's funny to think that most of this adventure would not be kicked off if Mikey really didn't need to piss like a racehorse right now. Every time he hits that hanging light bulb, it always cracks me up. I'm not sure why. It appears to be some sort of Pepsi can crushed up in the top left corner of that frame. It's part of the copious amounts of product placement in the 80s movies. I really love the way this light filters down from through the floorboards above into this basement area. And here, ladies and gentlemen, we're introduced to fan favorite character Sloth. This misunderstood, deformed man who's yet another sibling of the Fratellis. Some fantastic acting from Sean Astin as a mousetrap literally bites him in the ass. Sloth is one of those characters that it just he's just fun to watch. He's just magnetic every single time he's on screen. And it's easy to tell how he would become such a fan favorite. It's the first of several rousing speeches that Mikey gets to deliver in this film. And there we go. The entire cast, central cast of the Goonies is now present. Chunk is kind of the brute force character of the group. You either agitate him to get him to use his strength, or you can hand him something if you need him to break it. Martha Plimpton, who plays Steph, is me right now. Josh Brolin really can't catch a break in this movie. You really have to commend the production design that went into this movie, because for any shortcomings it might have story-wise, I think it's definitely got some of the most gorgeous sets, especially in the 80s, and the fact that it was all done the exterior stuff is all done on location, and then of course the a couple things for pretty much the remainder of the movie was done on massive sound stages to give these sets really this full scope. Just makes you wonder how no one's ever found this entryway underneath this building, and all the years it's been there. Of course, there's a fake money press if you didn't get already that the Fratellis are evil people. Honestly, Chunk would be one of the smartest Goonies if his stomach wasn't his kryptonite. Of course, this is the setup to one of my favorite gallows humor jokes in this movie. So I believe that the upstairs area of this building's like an actual legitimate building that they found near one of their shooting locations. Here's another poster shot right here, one of my favorites. Pretty much all the slaps in this movie are real as well. So Anne Ramsey just really just gave it to one of her sons. Chunk getting locked in the fridge with the stiff is one of my favorites. That might be my favorite shot in the movie, save for the shot at the very end with the reveal of the poor Chunk, the pirate ship at the end of the movie. I always forget just how quickly Chunk kind of gets put on this B plot. While everyone else kind of gets to go on this fantastical adventure, Chunk's kind of locked in on this B plot for the rest of the movie. And of course, Chunk accidentally is his way out of this problem by finding a third exit. Of course, you got one of those "you broke my glasses" lines in this movie. The two brothers having a tete-a-tete between who's in charge of the group. The framing of this is so good. It would be really sad that Chunk got set on this B plot if it wasn't such a funny B plot that he gets to go on. So some of the framing of this just calls back to such other great kind of noir films or crime dramas. This sequence really makes no sense, but it's delightfully in service of this really fun joke. And we also get some more great music. It's funny is this is the country club that's kind of taking over their town, and ironically enough, they're going to accidentally destroy some of it. Here's the same dickweed from earlier. The lighting in this movie never ceases to amaze me just how well done it is. This is kind of a cartoony joke, but it's fun because, you know, it feels like they're accidentally discovering this thing that they were never supposed to. This blender scene is one of my favorites. Jeff Cohen, who plays Chunk, really gets to have a lot of fun with some of the best line deliveries in this film. So the blender prop is actually a rubber blade, so they could actually shove Cohen's hand pretty deep in the blender and not really get worried about accidentally slicing up his fingers. But it also was, a rubber blade can still cut up fruit and things that are a little bit less tough, so it still is a convincing blender. What's funny is that Jeff Cohen did actually, as a kid, go to a fat camp, and but he didn't manage to get kicked out by pigging out. But someone at the camp did get kicked out for that very reason. I love how subtly framed the rock trap that's about to go off. Is so subtly framed that if you're not looking for it and you're more focused on the action of the movie, then you really don't see it until it's too late. That's what I think. Whenever I see dynamite, I think candles. it's tough to pick a favorite Goonie. Because Data just every line read that he gives is so fun. And there goes this Rube Goldberg machine with the rock trap. It's pretty clever. This has a very Indiana Jones feeling. Data kind of is a short round-esque character. He's pretty resourceful. Ends up helping Indy solve some of the bigger puzzles. So these bats are a combination of just like prop bats shot out of an air cannon at the actors, and then obviously the bats on wires. And Ramsey's face is so delightful in this scene. Yeah, once again, obviously, production design absolutely bananas here with this really cool cave set. I love the wishing well reveal. And of course, this is when we get the B plot pairing of Chunk and Sloth, which ends up becoming an iconic pairing. That gag is so good. It's crazy to think that this movie, The Goonies, is so inspired by the adventure movies from like the 20s and 30s on, and how The Goonies ended up inspiring movies like It in the future. It ended up inspiring such. It's so weird how movies and art and culture does that. How it's kind of cyclical. Everything ends up inspiring something new. And it's so fun. I don't know if you remember this, but a couple years ago, back when the original MythBuster show was running, they tested the theory about about whether or not you could slide down a curtain or a mast by cutting a knife into the cloth sails. Obviously, it didn't work, but it was a ton of fun to watch. Of course, a lot of these things in this movie probably wouldn't stand up to the testing of time. Yes, obviously a chance of getting killed, but of course, Goonies never say die. This is the second speech. Say what you will about Chris Columbus, he's definitely had quite a few misfires in my mind. But he did a pretty good job with some of the dialogue in this movie. I really do enjoy some of the jokes in this. I wonder if this particular framing of the television and the actor reflected in the image inspired Edgar Wright's usage of it in Spaced and especially Shaun of the Dead. And of course, there's the Baby Ruth right in frame where you can easily see it. This is me when I don't get my candy bar. Honestly, I am Sloth right here. I need the inspiration of a candy bar to get out of bed each day and escape my bedroom. And this is why those two are such a great pair. So the actor that plays Sloth, John Matuszek, was a football player at one time for the Raiders, which is why he wears a Raider shirt as Sloth throughout the entire film. This movie is very self-referential, but also kind of inspires all the movies that are referencing pop culture and make that a large part of their identity. So it's no wonder that movies like this wholly inspired the culture that would go on to inspire Stranger Things just a couple decades later, you know? I don't remember what kind of cameras and lenses they used for this film, but it's definitely one of those. I love the way that they refract all the different water droplets and light. And yet another Rube Goldberg machine, which Donner's a huge fan of these types of traps and setups. Some really interesting camera movements here. This is one of my favorite inventions that Data has. It ends up being useful again a little bit later. So it's neat that this is its introduction. I love how the police recognize Chunk's voice and recognize him as the boy who cried wolf he is. Obviously, that's a Goonies or a Gremlins reference. This is a really clever, once again, production design. I don't know if you see it right now or later, but it's a skull. But it has this really natural cave formation look to it. Ooh, love this scene. As a kid, I rented this movie from Blockbuster, and it always this scene always made me feel really awkward. I'm not sure why, but it's one of the scenes that still makes me laugh every single time. And it's such a fun little running joke for the rest of the movie. Martha Plimpton yet again does another great line read as Steph. such a good bit. Kerry Green plays Andy in this film, and she is, I think, yet another leading girl in a Spielberg-produced movie that I think kind of inspired so many men's ideas about I guess setting up the quintessential ideas of beauty for this decade and on, especially kids who grew up on these movies, like Phoebe Cates in Gremlins. Andy, I feel like, is the similar character here. And of course, here's where we get the really cool shot of the skull formation, like I mentioned a little bit earlier. And the way it's lit up is just so good, so gorgeous to look at. I think that it sounds like a dog sound effect that they put under Anne Ramsey is Mama Fratelli walking. And this, I think, is one of the most iconic images from the movie, is this waterfall surrounded single log bridge that everyone now has to cross. This stunt is absolutely incredible. I don't know how Joey Pants or whoever his stunt double was for that survived that. This terrifying skull organ is such another great piece of production design. I have to imagine it helped inspire the organ in Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest, the organ that Davy Jones plays. I don't know if those notes were there earlier in the film. I could be wrong. I don't remember seeing them in any of my viewings of this movie until this very particular moment. So this is the stairs up to this. This is a big old platform that's about 10-15 feet in the air. So that way, this trap, if you play a wrong note, it drops away part of the floor. They shot it up on this huge platform so they could actually drop away and reveal the spikes below, which meant that everyone was in nice close proximity and wired in so that way they wouldn't fall for real. It's yet another really cool trap design. It's the production design, the character work, and the trap concepts that are just so brilliant in this film. For any qualms you might be able to have with the story, where it doesn't really make a ton of sense if you analyze it too much as a... And there goes some of the floor. That shot was a little bit of a blue screen, but there's a shot coming up real soon that will show you the real full-on set. Another blue screen shot right here. Liberace is not an artist that most people would know anymore, but I appreciate that deep cut. Okay, and here we go with the real set. That's it. It's me, Mikey, making that gallows humor joke. That's definitely gonna be me whenever I do something really dangerous. This water slide has always looked fun to me. I can't imagine how fun this must have been as a kid to be able to just slide down a water slide over and over to get the takes that are needed. And water slides that they don't allow anyone to do anymore because they're too dang tall. The water looks, I know they had to put a lot of dye in it, but it looks gorgeous in this film. One of the things that Donner was really good at is he kept the kids from seeing the pirate ship at the end of the film until right here. Really cool moment. And the pirate ship, once again, is just a fantastic set. They didn't build it so they could tear away walls, so it's just one big set. They don't have, it's not just a different sound stage for different floors of the pirate ship. It's just one big old set, which is just incredible. Sadly, I don't believe that pirate ship exists anymore, which is a huge bummer because it's a gorgeous piece of film history. And apparently the ship is called the Inferno, which is a dope ship name. But it's any faults that this movie might have, I think it more than makes up for it in this giant, incredible ending set piece in this lagoon in a cave. Just some brilliant set design, incredible music, and just a lot of fun right here. Billions of ships. I have to say, incredibly clever to hide yet another chamber in your ship that is very difficult to get to. I'm not always a huge fan of Dutch angles, but I think they really work here, given that the ship is kind of nestled at an angle. And it just kind of creates this uncanny feeling that I think any kid would feel being on this ship that's been hidden from everyone for hundreds of years, and now it's finally yours to discover. Here's One-Eyed Willie. This is one of my, if not my favorite scene from this film. Just this neat little moment, this character moment with Mikey. And this is the third and final speech. Love the way they chose to light this by making it seem like it's completely lit by candlelight. It's just a really neat choice, and it really helps illuminate the gold. And there's the Pinchers of Power again. Such a fun little payoff. Some more great work from Anne Ramsey. Perfect voice, perfect demeanor, perfect face for this role. She's so fun to watch. I would give Brand's landing right there a 3. Looked like mostly landing on his chest, but you know. And there's the other iconic phrase from the film. Man, I love this moment. Despite not being in a ton of the film, Sloth really leaves an impression. I agree with Captain Chunk. Let's get the hell out of here. This looks a ton of fun to jump off a plank into water. Of course, Martha Plimpton Steph gets a great punch in on Anne Ramsey's Mama Fratelli. And we've just elevated to Super Chunk. This scene between John Matuszyk's Sloth and Anne Ramsey's Mama Fratelli is just, I think, such a great moment to close out this massive set piece with. And the Rockabye Baby. Sloth gets a 10 for his entry into the water. That is exactly like the nature of siblings. Making sure each other is alright and not hurt by anything else, and then immediately trying to beat each other up. And of course, Willie has one last booby trap, which Mike, either by knowing what Willie would set up here, or just respecting Willie in the game of his treasure, didn't want to take this very specific treasure that he's measured out. And of course, these thieves have no qualms about stealing that. So these falling rocks, we're done with some blue screen technology. But of course, the rest of the set is practically done. This cave, in the shape of it, also reminds me of The Last Jedi. I don't know if that framing was partly inspired by this, or filmed similar to this, or what. I don't know. But I love that this last booby trap just kind of sets this pirate ship free. It's such a neat, meticulous trap that in reality probably wouldn't work, but it's neat. It's just an incredible final image. And that is director Richard Donner on the right, being part of the police patrol that will find the Goonies. At this point, the Goonies have literally been gone for nearly 24 hours. So, yeah, of course, there's a bunch of police and their parents are out looking for them. So we get this really cool final scene where a lot of these are the real parents of the actual kid actors. Domino's gets some prominent product placement here at the very end. And of course Andy wants to do piano lessons, given that life or death situation. Truly
proved that she needed quite a few more lessons. That's one of the cheesiest lines in the entire film, but it always gets me. What's weird is Josh Brolin really kind of has a down period in his career after this. It's not until like No Country for Old Men and then in relatively recent years that he ends up becoming a bigger name actor again. And of course, once a Goonie, always a Goonie. So the Goonies all protect Sloth. Are children allowed to adopt large men? I'm not sure that is a thing. This kid's such a tool. Can't even say Astoria right. This guy is such a tool, and I'm so glad he gets his comeuppance right here with this piece that I'm not entirely certain that they completely set up, but it works. I think they could have done another cutaway to this. Because Mikey put some jewels in his bag, his little marble bag. So we get another poster shot right here. Sean Astin can't get through that line without breathing so much. Well, I never got that octopus line as a kid, but apparently there's this weird deleted scene with some giant octopus monster that's in the lagoon with the giant pirate ship. And of course we get this indelible image to close out the film with the pirate ship sailing out into the ocean. It's really cool. It's, yeah, for all this movie's faults, you know, it's got a lot of great imagery. And the characters are great, and the cinematography is great, and the production design and locations are really cool. And obviously, yeah, this shot right here is just fantastic. Might be my favorite in the entire movie. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the adventure film known as The Goonies. So of course we get to hear the track from Cyndi Lauper again, which is I think I've heard this on the radio quite a few times on like classic radio stations that I grew up listening to. I was a weird kid who didn't grow up on movies that actually came out when I was young. I saw mostly movies from the 80s like this and a bunch of others. Some could say that my parents were bad at picking movies for children, but these movies were a really big part of my childhood, and I don't know. I love movies from this decade. Some of my favorite stuff to watch, and I think The Goonies is one of those movies that will stand the test of time. You can't forget the incredible makeup done by Craig Reardon, Thomas Berman, Barry Berman, Ellis Berman, and the rest of the Berman family who pulled off the sloth makeup, which took about 5 hours to apply. The set designers deserve a ton of commending. And a lot of people don't really think about the property masters, but it's the people who kind of wrangle all the different sets and get permission to shoot in different places, and they really are kind of the backbone of the crew. Here's the special effects people. I don't have time to read all their names. But yeah, that's The Goonies. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up my commentary for this. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it enlightening. And yeah, if I don't see you around, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.